Yo, 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 welcome to the fifth episode of Coast to Coast Podcast. And today we have a very, very special guest. We have Tim Burns with us here today. Tim is a pro trainer for Pro Hoops. It's a training program that started in New York, and he works with a lot of NBA guys. He's worked with people like JJ Redick, Kemba Walker, Noah Vonleh, and Tina Charles. Has also spent time with people like Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell. He was on the 2006 George Mason team that made it all the way to the Final Four, and they ended up losing to a stacked Florida team. And did they go on to win the championship? Or
Yeah, they won it that year, and then they repeated the following year also. That was Joakim Noah and Al Horford, Corey Brewer. Yeah, they had a nice team, man.
stacked.
Marie
Yeah.
Spates too, right? Wasn't Marie Spates on that team?
Yeah, Spates was coming off the bench. Yeah, so I mean they were loaded. They had Torian Green was a really good guard. They had Lee Humphrey was a shooter. They had a lot of NBA players. Tough team.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So first off, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time during this coronavirus.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Of course. And just the first question: how did you get involved with Pro Hoops? And how did the process go? With your brother and everything.
Yeah. So my older brother Ross is about 8 years older than me. So he was coaching at Fordham University when I was playing at George Mason, and he was kind of getting towards the end of his coaching career. And Jay Hernandez, who founded Pro Hoops, some of you guys have worked out with him before, being from Long Island. You guys know him.
Yes.
And Jay's kind of the one who started this whole movement. So shout out to Jay. That's our guy. I got to check in with him. But he came to do a clinic at Fordham, and Ross was coaching there. And I'll never forget it because Ross would always put me through workouts, and he was good. He was a good workout guy. But he just was like, man, we got to get in the court. We got to get in the court. And I'm like, well, what's the big deal? We always work out. And he was so excited to show me these drills he had seen at a clinic. And at that time, it didn't register to me, but Jay made such an impact on him and just the way he was teaching player development. So Ross was kind of getting a little tired of college basketball, wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And he stopped coaching at Fordham. And this is during my college years. So I'm going back and forth between George Mason and, the Bronx, visiting him at Fordham. And when he finally stopped coaching, he went into player development. He started working for Jay out of Long Island. So we were taking the train. Well, he was taking the Long Island Railroad out there from the city, doing 4 or 5 days a week, and just really fell into it. So for me, I kind of saw that whole development with him. And then when I graduated, I was lined up to be a grad assistant at George Mason. And I said, you know what? I really like New York City. I've been spending my summers here. I'm ready for a change of scenery. And I just love player development, and I thought it was really cool. It was kind of at that time, there was no, trainers with followings or, people didn't even really know. I think maybe Tim Grover, Jordan's trainer, was one of the few guys you knew by name. There's a couple others, but you'd have to be a real basketball head to know them. But yeah, it was interesting. It was a new industry, and it was you know what, do I want to go the coaching route, or do I want to try something that I have a little bit more freedom and individuality in? And it was just really exciting. I got into it literally after I graduated college and started training. I've been doing it ever since. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, just to go to show, if you want to pursue something, you could do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been really fun to watch the industry grow to what it is today. It's a full thing now, but I remember when we were doing it when I first started doing it, you had to explain to people what you were. Lifting weights, running, cardio. I'm no, I mean, we do some of that, but it's more skill focused. You're really trying to develop your game and just work on your craft. So I think it's funny now because people ask you what you do and you say, oh, I'm a trainer. And it's people have this this idea of you from the internet and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool to see how it's developed over time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually play hockey, so I actually know skill training, individual training. So I have a bunch of that. So that's interesting. That's cool.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Sure. All right, Tim. Hope you and your family are doing well. Here's the second question. Who's the first NBA client that you worked with, and how did you get that connection?
So a lot of my connections came through Jay and through my brother Ross. I would say that the first guy that I think I worked with without anybody else around was either Mike Dunleavy or Troy Murphy. I think it was Troy Murphy who played for the Pacers, lefty shooter. He was a hell of a player. It was either Mike or Troy. And those were guys that I was kind of shadowing Ross while he worked them out. But then he went out of town, he wasn't available, and I stepped in and kind of ran it. So that was how it went. And I would say it was one of those two guys back in the day.
So you worked with people like JJ Redick. Could you just take us through like what his daily routine would be, like what those type of workouts you would do with him, like just things like that? Because he's one of the greatest shooters of all time, arguably in the NBA. He's a great one. Could you
Yeah,
just take
yeah,
us through like what his daily routine would look like with that stuff?
definitely. So he's about as organized and as motivated as they come. I just don't you don't find many guys that are on his level. I think that it might have been the New York Times or somebody did an article on him last year about how he prepares, how obsessive he is, like what his routine is. And I read it and I wasn't surprised one bit. But people were sending it to me like, oh, I'm like, that's who he is, man. That's what he does. So like, he's the type of guy that he's going to get basketball and weights in every day. He has a really good strength coach. This guy, John Madonia, is based out of Jersey, who comes into the city and works with him and sometimes travels with him during the season. Guy does a great job. I mean, his body's really held up. I think he's 35 now. And, he's averaging like 15. He's shooting like, a great percentage from three. And like, he's in a new environment, young team. So like, I think he's really shown that like, his methods of preparation work. So like, he basically does either his weight session first or his basketball. Kind of depends on scheduling, what's going on, with the life. And, he's got kids and what's going on with our schedules and our openings. But he's going to do about an hour of basketball, usually when we're on the court. And he's very efficient. He's going to get in, warm up. He's got 2 or 3, maybe 4 different warm-ups he likes to do. And then he's got certain, drills he likes to do where he likes to get his shots. He's very specific. He's the type of guy. I might come in the gym one day with him and – the equivalent of what I do with him, one of you guys could have done. Because sometimes he just wants to get right into what he wants to get into. And he's like, I need to get my shots. And I'm rebounding and passing to him. Other days, it's, hey, like, what do you got for me? Let's do something new. Let's do something different. So I think the best thing about him is that he knows exactly who he is as a player. And he knows, like how the team that he's playing for is going to be using him, how he's going to be utilized. So that's easy for him to figure out, like in the off season, what do I need to continue to be good at? What do I need to build on? What do I need to get better at? So he makes it, he's the type of guy, like you get in the gym with him and it's like you blink and the workout's over. It's like, it's work, but like as detail oriented and as specific and smart as he is, it makes it very easy to work with him. So, I've enjoyed that. But like for anybody who's like trying to picture like, a day in his life, like what he's doing, he might go a little bit over an hour, but I'd say he sticks to 60 minutes majority of the time. If it's a lighter day, a shooting day, he might do 45, 50 minutes. But I think the key to his workouts, and, I had somebody in the gym recently watching one of his workouts, and anybody who comes in and watches, that they realize that everything he does is at full speed. Like everything is at game speed. So he's not every cut, every rep, everything is going, and again, he's not going crazy. He's not running so hard he's going to, burn himself out. But he does it at the same speed he does it in the game, and that's how he keeps in such great shape. And his conditioning is like a huge key to him, having this career that he's had. So I think he is a really good guy for like young kids to look at. Like, all right, like, what does he do? Well, he's very organized. He has a plan. He's specific. He knows what he wants to do going into the workout. He has a good understanding of who he is as a basketball player. I think some guys struggle with that, and there's so much content out there where you can find different moves, different drills. And they might be right for somebody, but they might not be right for you. And with him, I think he comes in and he knows, look, like, am I going to be doing this? Okay, yes. Am I going to be doing that? No. And let's get down to it and focus and work on that. And I think that's important. I think being organized, having a sense of who he is as a player. And then I think just the work ethic, I think like the little things you'll see with him in a workout are what are the most impressive. Like if we say we're going to get we're going to do like a 12-shot series. So it's going to be, 4 different shots. First one, he's going to sprint and transition, shoot a 3. Then I'm going to hit him with another ball. He's going to dribble off a ball screen. He's going to shoot a pull-up. Then he's going to backpedal. He's going to get another, triple threat shot. And then he's going to sprint backdoor for like a reverse layup. So that's 4 shots. So we're going to say we're going to go through 3 times. He's going to say, all right, I got to make 9. And that's really tough, right? Because that's 4 different shots, 3 times, 12 shots. You're going full speed. It's about as game-like as you can get in a workout. And I was doing it with him recently, and, he got like, 9, 10 every time. And it's like, I already know him, if he doesn't get that number, he's going to do it again. And he's not going to leave the gym until he does it again. And I think those are the little things that separate guys, because anybody can get hot and make, not anybody, but, a guy can come in and make 12 out of 12 one day. But it's like when you're having your bad day, when you're like struggling at 7, 8, and you're just dying, and your legs are shot. And it's like, how are you going to persevere through? And I think that's what separates him. I think that's very important. So, yeah, he's been great to work with. I always say, like, the guys these guys that I've had a chance to train, I learn a lot from them. You know, like I'm also teaching them new things that I'm spending time learning. But you know, I'm very interested in shooting. I've been able to study Mike Dunleavy, JJ Redick, Joe Harris, you know, even a guy like Troy Murphy. We had Fletcher McGee for pre-draft, the kid from Wofford 2 years ago. So I've had some, I'm probably forgetting somebody too. I've had some opportunities to be around some incredible shooters. And it's just very, you know, it's great because you learn things and you're also teaching at the same time. So yeah, JJ's been a good one for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Kemba Walker is viewed as like one of the best leaders in the league. What do you think about Kemba makes him such a great leader?
I think Kemba's just like, it's kind of cliche to say, you know, the term, oh, he's got great energy. It's just the truth about him. I mean, he just like, you could just feel his positive energy when he comes in a room, you know? So I think that's number one. He brings energy and it's always positive energy. He doesn't bring negative energy. So some guys can bring energy, but it might go the other way, you know? They might get mad. They might get down on a teammate. He's always lifting guys up. And he just wants to win. He has a really good nature about him. It's kind of like who he is as a human being. It kind of translates to the basketball court. And, you know, he's got the toughness and he's got the clutch. Like if he needs to make a shot and do it himself. But he also at the same time, you know, you saw him this year, like when Tatum hit some game winners and he ran over and he was more happy for Tatum to make the shot than if he had taken it himself. And it's just kind of how he is as a person. And it just like, it's great to be around. It's infectious, and it's what you want your team having. So you know, he's great in that sense.
That's awesome because like that's really how it seems. Just watching like games on live, and I've seen him play a couple times in person. That's really how it seems. So that's awesome to hear. It's pretty cool.
Yep. I'll give you an example. Like if he's in a workout and he's getting frustrated, and there's nothing wrong with cursing and throwing the ball, right? Like I've seen everybody, you know, I try and do that, but he's the type of guy like when he starts struggling. He does this smile. He starts kind of smiling. And it's like, to me, it's like so representative of like what his like mantra is about life, you know? Like I wish I had that patience that he has, you know, because he'll just keep smiling and you know on the inside it's bubbling up, but he's consciously telling himself, I'm gonna smile and this is gonna be okay. And it almost always works out being okay with him. So I think, you know, he's great in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's literally what every coach wants in their leader, like from high school up, like that positivity. If you could bring that because that, like you said, it's infectious. You know, it can lift the team, and it can make you think you can do something that you didn't think that you could do before, and that's so cool. Like that's one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. He's boosting guys up. He's picking them up. He's not holding anybody back. So. Definitely the kind of guy you want to play. I'm not surprised Boston's like, you know, had such a good start with him. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, every time I see him play, he's always got a smile on his face. Exactly. I mean,
yep.
Everybody
That's him, man. That's him. There's no fake there. If you ever met him, you know he's just a real guy. He's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, I've also been curious, like guys like Kemba, like JJ Redick, like how do you keep them at a level where they are, where they're not like you're teaching them new things, but you're just maintaining like what they have, because you know they're all-star players, they're all great players. So there comes a point where like you can't really teach them too much without getting in their head. So like how do you balance that?
I think like you have to have like a good feel for what's going on in the player's head, and you have to be able to read their body language and read you know, you can just feel in a workout when things are flowing or when things get a little bit tight. And like sometimes you have certain drills or certain things that you know have worked with a person where like, you know, like if they get in a rut, I'm gonna go to this, or like you know, I mean, I think with like for JJ for example, he makes it really easy because he kind of comes in and he's so organized that he comes in from jump and he's like, all right, today I want to get shots off pin downs, get a little bit of spots, and then I want you to put me through ball handling and finishing. That's usually like when it comes to shooting, I mean, obviously that's like his absolute expertise. He almost always knows what he wants to do, and he knows the footwork, and he knows the type of screen or whatever action it is. He usually leaves like finishing one-on-one moves and ball handling more to us as trainers. So so with him, it's a little bit easier. He kind of tells you. Some other guys, I just, you know, usually make it a habit before the workout starts. You got to check in with them, you know, what's upcoming. Like basically like if you're working out today, like what are we looking towards? What's your next goal? What's your next camp? What's your next tryout? Where's your body at? And they kind of like, what are we trying to accomplish today? You know, like what are you in the mood for? How you feeling? You know, and if it's going to be a prolonged period, we're going to sit down and say, all right, what, you know, in this summer period, what do you want to add to your game? If it's just like a one-off here and there, okay, we're just gonna get some shots up, get some reps in. Maybe I'll pick a couple different things. But I think that's one of the most difficult parts of the business. I think, there's a lot of literature and there's a lot of stuff out there now where you can learn the moves and you can learn the concepts and you can kind of learn how to teach these different things. But I think finding different ways to feel out within the workout, like where the player's at, what's working for them, how to push them. But again, like you said, you don't want to give a guy too much. You're dealing with an NBA All-Star guy who's very talented. He's going to have his own input. But I think just being open, because at the end of the day, you're an asset to this player and they want to get better and you want them to get better. So it's a great situation. And it's like, as long as you're open with them and honest and they trust you, I think the trust is the biggest thing in these relationships we have with these guys. We all become friends, we become tight. But I think those things are important, because if you get in there and you're not, you don't have a good feel for what's going, and it's precious time. You don't want to waste time, you don't want to waste any time. So that's a really good question, because that is one of the trickier parts of being a trainer, because I could write down, pages upon pages of great drills. But you have to know what ones apply to the guy that you're dealing with. And then also what's going to be the best way to spend your off season? Are we going to work on something that's going to come up for you a lot in games, or do you want to focus on something that is a little bit, trickier, that you're probably not going to do as much? And fortunately the guys we're dealing with, they know, and they're smart about it, and they have a good feel. So yeah, that was a very good question.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about you yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about the NCAA tournament and how it was going that deep into it as like a small school like George Mason?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we were like one of the, a bunch of mid-majors made runs, but we had been the first one in a while when we did it in 2006. And I always tell people, so I walked on at George Mason. I was really hell-bent on playing Division I. I had a Division II offer. And I really felt I could play D1. My brother was in coaching, so I got connected with Mason. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is a great, beautiful school, nice area. I'm going to go for this and give it a shot. So, coming in, I'm thinking, wow, it'd be really cool if we won our conference tournament and we got the automatic bid. Like, that was kind of my mindset coming in, as a small school, George Mason at that time hadn't, had they had a good basketball program, but it wasn't like a national powerhouse or known or anything like that. So I'm like, man, if we just get in the tournament and play one game, that'd be awesome. That's kind of like, that would be a home run, to my head. And that year, we just had such a good year. We got really hot. We got some momentum behind us. We had some big out-of-conference wins. We beat Wichita State on the road, and they were considered a tournament bubble team. And I think that's kind of what pushed us into the tournament. And it even went down to Selection Sunday. We didn't know if we were going to get in or not. We did Selection Sunday at coaches, and we thought we were in, but we had lost twice in the last, I think, 8 days. We had lost to Hofstra. Everybody on the line was pissed off because they didn't get in. We had lost to them in the regular season and in the conference tournament, and I think the semis. So, going in, we're thinking we're not 100%. And then we get in, it's just mayhem. And, we're so excited to be there. And then we see the draw, and we're playing Michigan State. And we had played them the year before, and we had played them pretty well. And we knew Shannon Brown. We knew Maurice Hager. We knew, we knew Paul Davis. We knew these guys. They had Drew Neitzel. So we're kind of like eyeing this team, and we're looking at them. And it's like, you know what? We can beat them. And then we're looking at Carolina. And, again, this is the thing about the tournament that, everybody – I think if you pay attention to the tournament, you realize this, but when you're the underdog, you're playing with house money. So it's like, you're just like, man, we're so happy to be here. This is so exciting. And of course you want to win, but then once you win, you just start, I don't want to say you start feeling invincible, but it's like, all right, if we lost to Carolina by 30 in the second game after we beat Michigan State, we wouldn't have been happy, but everyone, oh, it would have been great. We went to the tournament, we won a game. So it's with every game you win, it's like, I can't believe this, man. Can you believe this run? And it just keeps going. And it's by the time we got to Indianapolis to the Final Four, it was just surreal. I mean, we had ESPN was on campus. I remember back then, the big start of SportsCenter was 6 p.m. And they'd always do a little clip before, and then they do the da-na-na, da-na-na, and they'd start ESPN that way. Mm-hmm. And one of the days, it was we would go into practice and coach would have a quote, and we'd have to read the quote to the whole team in the circle. And one of the days on ESPN, it was me reading the quote with my hand in the huddle. And my dad almost fell out of his chair, having dinner, 6 p.m. ESPN came on. It was just just stuff like that where it's just so surreal. And it's again, you kind of go into it like, oh, it'd be cool if we win a game. Like, forget that we won 4 games. And we were in that game with Florida, It's funny because we work with Joakim Noah a lot now, and he was on that team. So we'll talk some trash, but I can't really say much. But yeah, we were in that game. They had some offensive rebounds second half, kick out to Lee Humphrey, made some big threes. But I mean, that team was loaded and we were in the mix. So no regrets there. It was incredible. And like those are my guys. Like we actually had a group message this morning, and they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to do like a reunion Zoom this weekend?" So I think we're gonna do that. So it's it's just a great bond with those guys. So it's been awesome.
That's special. For sure.
Yeah, so going back to Ross a little bit, so both in your primes, who wins one-on-one?
We always get that question. It's funny because like I would say it's like pretty even. I'm definitely more of I was a more offensive, like oriented, like shooter. So like, of course I'm gonna think that I'm gonna beat him. You know what I mean? That's my feel. But like, it's hard to say because he's 8 years older than me, so it's always the older brother, younger brother dynamic.
Yeah.
And we would battle. Ross is more of like a pass first point guard, do the little things, stuff like that. I'm more of a scorer, shooter. But yeah, it's funny when people see us because like, oh, you guys play differently, But I'm gonna say me. Yeah, I'm gonna give myself the nod here. Yeah.
So I have a question going back to when you were at George Mason. So I feel like there's always a point because in high school I was on a state championship team, and there was like a point where we knew like, man, like we're in this tournament, like we're in the playoffs now, and I think we could win it. Like when did your team know? Like was there one specific moment when your team knew that you guys could make something happen, do something special?
I feel like there were like multiple moments throughout the year that like kind of like gave a little bit of a window into like, damn, like we could do this. And like, I got to give Coach Larinaga a lot of credit because he was a really good coach for a lot of reasons, but he's very good at creating a narrative for the team. And like he was telling us all year, he kept pointing to our 3-point percentage defense, how well we guarded the 3-point line, how well we were in percentage defense. And he was harping on these stats, and he kept telling them to us in the huddle, telling us every day. And when you keep hearing over and over that you're top 10 in this category, you're like, we're like top 10 in the country. Like you have to start believing it. You know what I mean? You have to start believing. We had this pretty crazy story. We had, I don't know if you guys know Bob Rotella is. He's a sports psychologist. He's pretty famous. And crazy enough, he came in. We actually worked closely with the UMass team that my brother was on that went to the Final Four. If that isn't a coincidence. So Dr. Rotella came in the year before our Final Four run, and he asked us to do a visualization thing. He's a big sports psychologist. He's talking about the importance of visualization, talking about, your mindset. And he asked us to put our head down and think of like a goal. And like one kid, my roommate, Lamar Butler, is a good friend of mine. He was always like a really optimistic, like reach for the stars type guy. But he was like, he's like, all right, my thing that I envisioned was that we went to the Final Four. And he said it right there, and it was like one of those things where it was laughable at that moment. Not laughable like you're a competitor, so you're not going to laugh about it. You know what I mean? But in the sense of like that's a very difficult goal to achieve. But I think we also had a lot of guys that I know when Coach talked about recruiting, he talked about recruiting people who won in high school. And I think if you went across the board on our team, a lot of our guys had really successful high school careers. The guys from Maryland locally, like this kid, Will Thomas on my team, nobody knew who he was before that UConn game. But he had played Rudy Gay in high school, and I think he had beat him like more than he had lost or something like that. I don't want to, say it the wrong way, but whatever it was, like we had guys who were a little bit overlooked, but like had some, some confidence behind them and belief that they could hang. And I think that kind of went all the way aboard, across the board with the team. So like I think Coach did a really good job of like making us believe that we could reach that and making us realize that we were good enough to make that kind of a run. And then I think like the stuff that happened in the season, I think just like some of the out of conference games and especially the bracket buster game we won at Wichita State, because that was just a ridiculous environment. We only had 7 fans that were behind our bench. They were basically the coaching staff's family. I think like one person's girlfriend. And then the rest of the place, I mean, it was insane. It was mayhem. And this is the part of the year where bubble watch, bracket, but like everything, every day there's a new, well, Mason's looking in, Mason's looking out, stuff like that. So enormous game. We had to make big plays down the stretch to win it. Our leader, our point guard, Tony Skinn, made a 3 to seal it. off like a really nice kick out. We threw it in the post. We had a big man, Jai Lewis, who was like really hard to guard. Threw it into the post. They doubled him. He skipped it. Tony buried a three right in front of the bench. We got to stop the other end. It was like just a series of events like that throughout the season where you kind of stretch yourself a little bit and you're like, we can do this. Like, all right, like we can do this. You know, I think another one, like, I think, you know, the first minutes of that Michigan, and then, you know, then we go to our next big, like, you know, most meaningful game, Michigan State game in the tournament. And we had played them the year before. So it's like, you know what, we already know these guys. Like, we're kind of familiar with them, you know? And they were like, had a really talented, like, you know, pro style team, but like, they just weren't gelling at that time. So we can get these guys. Then we're looking at Carolina and we're seeing, all right, we got Carolina next. They're super young. Like, it's not a Carolina backcourt. Like, it was Wes Miller and Frazier, I want to say the other guard was. And they were, you know, they're very good players, but it wasn't like, you know, the top 10 point guard lottery pick. It wasn't like their prototypical team like that. Hansbrough was a freshman. I want to say Danny Green was a freshman. He might have been a sophomore. But those guys were all young. So then it's like, all right, we can get them. And then if we beat them, we got Wichita State in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, excuse me. And I'm like, we already beat Wichita State a couple weeks ago. So I think it's just a period of like, you know, it's just a really good example of like having an idea and starting to just kind of like grasp the concept that you could, you know, attain something, you could reach something, and then like going out and setting out to like, you know, try and prove to yourself that you can. And like every time we checked a little box along the way, our confidence kind of grew and we got boosted. And then like once we got the upset in the tournament and we had all the momentum, then it was just like you just ride off the momentum from there. You're just having fun. And like that was Coach's whole thing. Like let's have a really good time. Let's have fun. Like let's enjoy this. Like you know, if we lose, we win. Let's just leave it all out there on the floor. And we played so loose and relaxed, and that was a big part of it. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But I would say, just to specifically answer your question, that Wichita State game, I would say that was like the really, you know, really big thing. We're like, all right, like they're a tournament team. We just beat them in their place. You know, we can do the stuff. So
Yeah. It's all about that winner's mentality and that confidence. Like once you get that on the team and you know you could beat guys, it's over with.
Definitely.
Yeah. So you can go. You can go, Henry.
All right. So I was gonna say you also spent a ton of time with Joakim Noah, and he's been like really disrespected the past couple of years in the league. So can you tell us a little bit about like his headspace and like how he's thinking?
For sure. I think, you know, he gets a bad rap, I think, because he's so passionate and intense. And like he had injuries. He had a contract that he didn't live up to. He was injured. He had the, you know, suspension for taking a supplement. So the last however many years just have not gone well. And I mean, if you look at anybody who's, I mean, you guys are Knicks fans, you guys know, it's like you almost like don't escape the Knicks wrath, no matter how good you are or how good you aren't, right? Like if you play for that team in the last like 10, 15 years, like your name gets smeared in some way, like you end up looking, you know. So I think he was a little bit he was caught in that mix. I mean, he did, you know, he signed a big contract there and he wasn't healthy. But I think he's the type of guy that like his value, like to me, his biggest value is just his motor and his intensity. You know, now he's a big guy, he'll guard, he'll rebound, he's gonna do those things that he can do at that size, and that made him like a lottery pick. But he's the type of guy you want to be in a fight with because he's going to defend. He's going to have your back. He's going to play super hard. He's going to prepare like a professional. And right now, he looked. We were so disappointed because he had just signed and he looked great. He was ready to roll. You know, he's working out with us every day. Great shape. I mean, he's incredibly dedicated to it. He's the type of guy that's doing like ice baths and saunas and, you know, extra treatments on the side. You know, a lot of guys in the NBA are doing this, but you know, you name it, all the things he can do to get back on the court and play at a high level. He's doing those things and he's in a good place. So, I mean, I think this Corona obviously messed up things for a lot of people. You know, everyone's dealing with it in different ways. I think, you know, the timing of it was bad for him. But I think he'll be ready. You know, I think he's going to help somebody. And he's the type of guy that when he's in a system and he's appreciated and there's a clear there's urgency for the team, being that the team is competitive and that they have a way that they want to play, I think that's the type of situation that he thrives in because he just wants to he's like an old school competitor. He just wants to play hard and he wants to win. You know, some other guys might not look as good in that situation, but they might look good on a bad Knicks team where they can, you know, like take a lot of shots. So like, I think that was a tough spot for him, but I can't wait to see him get back out there because I mean he's in shape, he's ready to roll. So hopefully we get the season going again. So.
Yeah, like one thing for me, like just following you and Ross on Instagram, just seeing like and Joakim, seeing like the workouts you guys been doing with them, and just like the weightlifting, everything, just his motor is just it's just different. Just how it looks,
It
just ridiculous. So
it is. It's definitely that's 100% him. I mean, you've probably seen like some pool workouts they do. He has a place in California. He goes out there. He works with Laird Hamilton, who's a surfer. He does like a lot of like water, aquatic workouts. But he does all types of different stuff. He's creative, and it's like I think that just shows his dedication to his craft. But I mean, at the end of the day, what you just said hit the nail on the head, man. Like he's got an animal inside of him. When the game's on the line, like he's one of those guys you want on your side in your foxhole. So yeah, he's great for that for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you definitely played and seen a lot of great players. Is there anyone that's like shocked you that hasn't made the NBA, or is there anyone that like who's like the best player that you've ever trained, like similar to that?
I'm trying to think that didn't I worked with Archie Goodwin a good amount when he was kind of like done with the NBA and the G League. It was like a period of like, it was like one winter we just worked. We're trying to change his shot. He had developed some bad habits in his shot. I would say Arch is one of those guys. I mean, to me, he's an NBA player. He just didn't like, certain things about his game didn't translate. I mean, it's really interesting, like, where guys are at in their development. Like certain things may happen good or bad that are just like, things that turn for the best or turn for the worst. And like, I don't necessarily off the top of my head know like what Archie's, deal was there, but he was super talented, man. Like his arms are so long. He could move really well. And he was a good kid. He worked hard. I think, I think he's playing overseas now. He's definitely still hooping, but he's one of those guys. It's a tough one. I feel like you're trying to forget those ones. Those are sad ones you don't want to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, he's one that comes to mind. That's my guy. He's a great kid. So maybe he gets another chance in the league. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the one that comes to mind right now.
Got you. Yeah, Arch was a stud at Kentucky as far as I remember. He was a fun player to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, he still has some dunks that like they'll be on like the best dunk of the year clips where he just took off on somebody. So
he was a beast. So I have a question. How do you feel about all the young players going to the G League instead of college? For example, like Jalen Green, Isaiah Todd, Deshaun Nix. Like it's like a new trend now. What do you think about that?
I like it. I know, I'm pretty close to Sharif Abdul-Rahim, who's in charge of that. He's the president of the G League. I trained his son, Jabri. He plays at Blair Academy. He's going to UVA next year. So I've had a chance to be around him a lot and Jabri. And I just know that, like, he's very, organized, and he has a clear vision of how he wants to do things. So I'm not surprised to see them have the success early that they're having. I think, NCAA has been great because it's had at times when it's had the best players and guys haven't done, straight to the pros and stuff like that. Like, like LeBron obviously skips and guys don't necessarily play in college, or maybe they just play 1 year and they're gone. But, I'm on the side of things where I think like if kids can get paid, I think they should be able to get paid. And I think the big, in talking to people recently, I think the biggest issue is managing that money, right? So if kids are going to go to college and get paid, I think that's fine. And I think they just need to figure out, like, you don't just want to drop, whatever the amount of money the NCAA ends up deciding upon in this young, 19-year-old's lap and say, here, like, good luck with that. I think it should be stipend out. I don't know how they're going to do it. But, I mean, I think the G League initiative that they opened, I mean, I think it's great for these kids who are of that top tier because, like, those kids, I mean, their lives are different. Like, they're not treated in the same way like most, regular recruits are. And in a lot of cases, those kids focus. I mean, it varies from kid to kid. Some kids want to go back to school and get their education. And I know that's a part of that program, right? So you can go and you can play. And then when you finish playing, they're going to take care of your tuition and you can go get that. And you can kind of get the best of both. So, I mean, I think it's good. I think, the NBA knows they're going to get these guys at some point. They're going to get to their league. And they're trying to do the best job they can of cultivating these guys and keeping them in their network and having the best hands and eyes on them. Now, that's not to say that an NC University isn't a good place for a kid, but it's like anything you do in life. If you want to have the most control and most idea of how efficient it is and how it's going, you want to have it happening right in front of you. You want to be the one running it, right? You don't want to send him to a school where he goes here, and you're not on the same page with that coach. You're not having daily dialogue with that coach. So I think this program is going to be interesting. They're going to have to be creative in this first year. I know they're talking about like bringing some vets back and like having the vets be on the team to kind of scrimmage with them / mentor them. So I'm sure there'll be some little bumps and stuff like that in this first year getting up and running. But I think once it starts to take off, there's going to be guys who want to do it because some kids aren't really into class. They don't want to do that. You know, they just want to hoop, or they just want to hoop right now and they want to get better and they're going to worry about their education later. So I think this kind of solves that, especially for the top kids. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And, you know, it should be really interesting to see these kids. And I'm sure, you know, you guys are junkies. I want to see these guys play too. So I think we'll get a lot of access to them. So it'll be cool.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, that's definitely. I agree with Ty. It's gonna be super cool. But as a trainer, like, how do you like keep up as a trainer? Like, continuing? Do you like train with somebody? Do you, when you're training these guys, are you training yourself as well? Do you like watch somebody? Like, what do you do to stay up as a trainer?
I would say, you know, I've had a lot of surgeries. I don't play anymore. I kind of just try and keep my body in a place where I can like. For me, I'm like, all right, I need to be able to demonstrate anything I'm going to teach to my guys, you know? So I spend a lot of time working on footwork and just working. I'll go to the gym and just kind of put myself through stuff as I would put a player through it, maybe not the same intensity, just because I don't want to, I'm on my feet so much, I don't want to get too much like wear and tear. But I'll put myself through it. Like in my head, I'll say, all right, I'm going to teach the skill set later. Now I'm going to go ahead and do it. Maybe I'll, you know, instead of making 5, I'll make 1 or 2 reps. But once I kind of get it in my head, I know I have the feet down and I have the hand work down, I have the teaching points down, then I'm good, you know. And people probably think I'm crazy at my gym. They'll see me like choreographing, rehearsing the same move over and over. I'm like, you know, Euro stepping around nobody, or like stopping and like stepping, and I'm like thinking, and but like they probably figured out by now he must work with people. But I do a lot of that, you know. For Corona, it's been tough. I'm inside, so I just got some outdoor basketballs. I'll walk outdoors. I'll go down by I live in Brooklyn, go down by the water and like do some ball handling down there. Just try and get out and get in the sun and like do it that way, stay in shape, and then just lift weights and do some cardio and stuff like that and stretch and, you know, yoga. And I mean, any of the stuff that we can get into and we can get good at and do with our clients is always great. So like, I can't play one-on-one with my guys right now, but I can do yoga with them. I can do a strength workout. I can do, you know, stretching. I can do, so there's a lot of stuff like that. So we might do a basketball workout and then 2 or 3 guys get together and then walk across the street to go do yoga after, or, you know, yoga later in the day or something like that. So it's definitely, I would say the majority of my conditioning, and I've realized this during this time, comes from being on my feet, moving around. Cause like I usually just lose weight and I'm like staying at the same, I'm like, sitting on my couch instead of, you know, working with guys all day. So I do, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment getting back into it, but I'm trying to get in shape now and be ready, because I know guys are really hungry when this thing ends. So I would say that as far as like my body physically, and then like the craft, the moves, you just got to watch a ton of film, got to watch what guys are doing on the court. And you also have, you know, you got to be aware of what other guys are doing. I take a spin through Instagram, see what other trainers are doing, how they're teaching. That stuff is all free. It's out there for you. I think you pick and choose what you like and what you don't like and take parts of it. But I think it's always valuable just to look around and see how guys are teaching things. And I think it, you know, it's very beneficial. So I'd say, you know, those are the ways that, you know, for the most part, I try and stay in shape to work with these guys.
So what have you heard from like any of the guys or just anybody like around the league about the guidelines or like when the league will return?
They're going to have a decision in the next couple of weeks. I think they said by June. Can't remember, but it's in the next couple of weeks. It's coming up. I would say right now they're going to return. I've been going back and forth. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said no way. To me, the thing that's in their favor is the NBA is creative. They're progressive. They're not scared to mix things up for fear of like making mistakes. Like they get, you know, they work around things. They're not like rigid. So like, I think they know how important it is to finish the season. I think players have 2 different motivations right now. 1 is, or 3, I would say. There's guys who want to play because they like playing basketball. There's guys who want to play because they want their team to win the championship. And then there's guys who just want to get their money, right? And now some guys are all 3 of those things. Some guys are 2, some guys are 1, unfortunately. Some guys don't really like playing that much. But the top guys in the league, those guys, if you're that good, if you're in the top 1% of the league, you love to hoop and you're dying to get back in it and you want to compete. And those are the guys who drive, you know, LeBron's the engine of this league and he's in a great position to get a championship this year. So he's driving that, you know, like the top guys are driving it. I think just the, you know, the logistical issues, I think guys are going to have to be okay with saying, hey, like I'm going to be in, workout with a guy, and I could get this. Like, they have to be okay with the fact that they could get coronavirus, or that, whoever goes with them, if they do a quarantine or a bubble city, that they could get it and asymptomatically give to somebody that they're with. So I think there's going to be some of that where players have to sign some sort of a waiver. I don't know the legality of it, but I think they're going to have to say, look, like, I'm okay with resuming, and these setbacks could happen, but I'm okay with that. And I think most of these guys do feel like they're probably in the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert camp, where Donovan didn't even know he had it. He was in the lineup. Like, Rudy was going to be in the lineup that night, but he got diagnosed, positive. So, like, he was ready to play. He was, thinking he's fighting through a cold. So I think most of these guys feel, I think most of their concern is for their family or for the people close to them. You had, like, the terrible thing, like Karl Anthony Towns' mother passed. So, like, there's people who are concerned about, people around them getting it. But I think those are the bigger concerns than the actual player, worrying about what the virus is going to do to them themselves. Now, that's just, everybody's different. I saw something about Larry Nance Jr., and he has Crohn's disease. I think it's Crohn's disease in his stomach. And he was talking about how, like, that could be, affected by coronavirus. So, like, there's going to be a lot of logistics. It's going to be confusing. It's going to be people arguing they should have done things this way, should have done things that way. But I think it's worth it, because I think, we look back at other disasters like 9/11. I'll never forget, like, the Yankees game, like the first pitch, that was such a big deal. And, like, sports have kind of been how we've gotten through things before. So to not have sports in this time is pretty brutal. So I think, even without fans, just being able to watch a game will pick everybody up. So I really hope it happens, but we're going to find out here in the next couple of weeks.
Got you. So I wanted to go back a little bit to the previous question about working on your game as a trainer, and also the guys that you train. I've noticed that there's, like, a trend now that, like, a lot of people are doing, like, yoga and calisthenics to keep them, like, just, like, stretching and, like, keeping them loose. Do you think that, like, there's an impact of that, like, changing, and, like, what do you think of that becoming, like, a popular trend nowadays?
Yeah, I feel like it's been around for a decent amount of time. I think what you're seeing with guys in the league is a move towards flexibility, mobility, and slimming down. You don't have to be like this big, like, hulking bruiser. You're not going to be at your peak if you have too much weight and it's slowing you down. And you can see guys are strong. Like, Giannis is putting some strength on now. He's getting a little jacked up, but he's not going to get too big. Because you need to keep your speed. You need to, minimize injury, stuff like that. So I think guys have long used yoga. I know yoga's been popular. Almost all the guys that I talk to or work with have either done it or do it on a regular basis. So I think that I feel like yoga's been around. I feel like the stuff that you're seeing more of now that may be more like new age is, like, the recovery stuff, the Normatec guys, buying the Normatec, like, air compression for their legs, or cryo chambers. Cryo chambers are popular. You have, I think the recovery stuff, you have the Hypervolt, the gun, the massage gun. If you guys seen that thing, I got one of those things in here. You've probably seen it, but it's like all these teams carry them. And I think recovery is really coming a long way, so I think yoga will continue to be popular. And I think guys are going to keep doing recovery stuff. And I think it's crazy to look at how strength training has changed for athletes. And you just look at the guys' bodies, and everybody's body is different than it used to be, in the league. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here.
Yeah, I see that every day. Like, I play Boston College. I play hockey there, so I see all the the good new equipment they make. But I got a question about pro hoops. Like, what's next? You guys gonna build a facility soon? You guys got any plans up in the air? Like, what are you guys doing?
You guys got some funding? You got some funders for us? We're all in, man. We're all in. No, we were talking about that the other day. It's interesting because pro hoops initially, when I first started, I was doing a lot more younger kid training. I was working with Henry. I was working with you guys. And now, being that we work with a lot of pro guys, I feel like some of that stuff we still do that training, but it's a lot more geared towards pros. So we've been running pre-draft training for Excel Sports for, like, the past, like, 7, 8. Well, for Ross and I want to say, like, 6, 7 years. And before that, it was Jay was running it. So pretty much starting in mid-April and then going all the way up until August, when guys go back to camp for the NBA. That was just such a big period for pros, college guys. Like I said, pre-draft. So, like, last year we had Tyler Hero. We had some guys like that. Let's see, I'm trying to think who else is in this draft last year. I'm blanking right now, but, like, we'll get guys fresh out of college. We'll get guys, like European players. We'll get, during the summer, might work with some really good college guys, some top high school kids, kind of mix them in with the pros. but that's been like such a big part of the business that I think like the time of camps and clinics and stuff like that, we haven't been as much on top of that. And it's kind of interesting because when they were talking about pushing the NBA season to Christmas, I was like, please do it, because right now, summertime, I'm doing all my pros, and also all my other clients are like, yo, can we work out? And I'm like, kind of have like a bigger priority right now. I got like, you know, JJ or Kemba or somebody wants to work out. So that would be a great timeline for us if they did push the start of the season. I'm not going to sit here and hope that it happens. But I think the next thing for us is just really developing, I think, like a model for all the training, all the stuff that we do now, and just getting it down on paper and getting it so it's repeatable, and we can have other people do it. And you know, people can go and say, hey, like, I want to train using these methods. Well, what are these methods? How do we share them? I think a lot of the stuff and a lot of the focus, I think we've always leaned more towards like a family style, low key. We're not very big on social media, you know, really big on relationships and just like little stuff like that. And that's not to say that you can't do those other things and be big on it, but I think it's an area where we can improve, you know, because I don't feel like people really have much of a feel for who we are outside of guys that work with us compared to a lot of other trainers who I think have like a similar flow of clients. So I think that's the goal for us is, you know, what we have our new websites coming out soon. I think it's gonna be out in the next couple of weeks, and we're starting to do more stuff on Instagram. We're doing some videos for the Famer app. So I've been doing some like drill breakdowns. We've been doing that. We're going to do a partnership with the NBPA, the, you know, NBA Players Association, and we're going to put videos out through there. So I think that could be the start of us to do more online stuff. So I think continue to do what we're doing in the gym day to day with our pros and our top players and our regular clients, you know, day to day, and then just adding stuff online because, you know, digital is kind of where everything's headed. So I think that's the next big step.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Sorry, Mark, cut you off. One thing about pro hoops, because I trained with you guys for a long time, just like that family aspect is really there. Like I remember I used to walk in the gym and Jay was working with like Kemba or somebody. He would stop, like say what's up to me, like ask me how my day was going and stuff like that. And just throughout, like that's one of the biggest things with pro hoops that I saw when I trained with you guys. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, we definitely like. I think Ross and I. And there's a lot of, you know, we have some other great trainers who work under pro hoops, so not just Ross and I, but I think Ross and I being like two, you know, Ross being the leader and then me kind of being the 1A guy of the company, we're not the biggest self-promoters and we're not the biggest, like, you know, we're not the most comfortable on camera. It's not like our natural, like, oh, there's a case. Some people see the camera and they're running towards it, and other people see the camera and they're like, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll be over here. Well, you know, a little more to myself. So the whole social media aspect of like cameras in the workout, you know, like all these eyes and all. So that's become like, you know, you guys see it on Instagram. It's a real thing. It's like a, you know, it's like a style. And, you know, I think we just have to find a better way of touching on some of that. But you don't want to lose some of that personal feel because when there's cameras in the gym, the whole workout, I think that also affects, you know, the player. And it definitely depends from player to player. Some guys are oblivious to it. Other guys get distracted by certain things going on in the gym. But I do feel like you get a way more, you know, personal session when you do like a one-on-one with a guy and you can really get after it. Now, that being said, you know, you need to have some guys playing defense. You need to have more guys rebound. I think, you know, you can do a better job of bringing some of that stuff in. But I think it is very valuable to get those one-on-ones in where it's just some like close personal time where, you know, I look at what we do, even in some senses, it's like therapeutic. Guys sometimes just want to talk. You know, they don't like working on their game is part of it, but you know, like you just said, one thing you took away from pro hoops is the family style, right? Like when you look at pro hoops from a distance, you say that. I don't think the first thing you think is like, if you don't know anything about the company, you're not going to think, oh, this is a basketball training company. You're going to get like a very personable family type relationship. It's like, no, you're getting basketball drills, but like that's not, you know, it's a lot more than that. So I think, you know, that is the thing that we take pride in of pro hoops. You know, I mean, I think we like to, you know, keep in touch and. Obviously, I'm here today, Henry, because we've known each other for a while. I've known your family for a long time. So I think that's why, you know, in addition to loving basketball, that's why we do this stuff, you know, because we really like to have these relationships, see people grow. I mean, we all had, you know, in the position that I'm in now, these other trainers that I work with, we had people who did this stuff for us. You know, for me, it was my dad, my older brother, Ross, plenty of other people I could point to who put their arm around me and helped out with stuff. So, you know, I like to, you know, I do like to think that that's a big part of, you know, of pro hoops. And I think if we do a better job of kind of displaying that for people, I think we're going to get some more, you know, social media notoriety. And I don't really care that much about that, but it's always good for business. So, you know, increasing business is good. So we'll see. We'll keep working at it. So, yeah.
All right, we got one last question for you. And that is, so throw it back to the days when you were in college playing basketball, right? What were those top 5 pregame songs that you will always have to jam to, or top 5 artists, or something like that, that you would have to jam to before the game to get you right?
Good question. So I was kind of like the weirdo in my locker room because I was from suburbs in Mass, but I always loved rap music, which wasn't that weird. But I spent so much time in New York that I had like the whole New York like side of things that I was into. And then like I would be in New York in the summer. I'd have all the New York, music and whatnot. And then I'd go down to DC and it was totally different at George Mason. So I'd be listening to like, the Diplomats and some guys would be like, what are you listening to, man? Like they're listening to, my roommate listened to go-go music. I don't know if you guys know what go-go music is in DC.
No, I don't know.
Nobody knows. So I mean, it's
somewhat, like a little bit.
So basically what they do is like, they take songs that are hits and they basically like redo them with their own instruments. So like for the beat, they might be using a drumstick and like a bucket turned upside down, or like drums, or like, so they'll do their own version on it. They'll remix a little bit. So like, it's just it's a different type of music. It's a different style. So like, it was always a mix between like things that the whole team connected on and loved. And then there were some other things that we were like, yeah, how do you listen to that, man? So Kanye came out. Kanye dropped College Dropout. That was huge. That album was big time in the locker room. Definitely like on the New York stuff, like Diplomats. Let's see here. We were listening to some other stuff that was kind of trash, man. I'm not gonna lie, like that, like Lean With It, Rock With It, like Snap and all that. Like that was like the dance I got, like, not me. A bunch of the guys were doing before games. So like that song was big. Kryptonite was the big song that went like viral in regard to our run, because Coach L made some terrible joke about how we're UConn's kryptonite right before we beat them. And like it was just like, it was really corny, but like at the time there was a song that had kryptonite in the chorus, so that was it. And let me think if there's one more. I think the Clips, What Happened to That Boy, we were listening to a lot. That was another song. So I think I gave you like 3 or 4 there, or at least 5 artists. So yeah.
Well, for sure. Tim, we definitely do appreciate you hopping on the podcast with us, taking the time out of your day during this quarantine. We hope that you and your family are staying safe. And we also hope that the listeners are staying safe, and we appreciate them coming out and listening too.
Definitely. Guys, thanks for following. If you guys want to check us out, check out Pro Hoops Inc. INC on Instagram. We're also on Twitter. We're going to be adding stuff on there. We're getting more content out. Our Instagram's got a nice little layout. We're doing all black and white photos, some cool pics and stuff like that. So check us out on there. If you're into training, you're going to see us on the Famer app. We're going to be putting stuff on there. We're going to have our own profile. And yeah, man, guys, thanks for having me on. Definitely enjoyed this today. So stay safe like that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, fellas. Take care.
Peace.
You too.